music.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it. Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind? That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like it being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan will cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when he runs it close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it, those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
When we get you prime painted and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
Oh, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. Sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes, every gear change, every corner, perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do, it's passion, love, which is why we're prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the penultimate round of the Custom Racewear Formula 3 iRacing Championship. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, your host, and joining me as always for where we are now, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Mr. Jake Sanson. Evening, Jake. How are things?
Good evening. Things are pretty darn spiffing at the moment. We've got the drivers running around the circuit in fine fettle as they prepare themselves for action here in the Custom Racewear iRacing Formula 3 Championship Round 3 from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and it is already looking pretty exciting out there for our contenders.
Now, one of the sessions is currently underway, which I imagine is free practice. Memory serves me correctly. They have a 20-minute free practice session. Then it's a 10-minute qualification session, but only the first 2 hot laps will register. Then we have a 15-minute sprint race, followed by a 10-minute warm-up, and then after that, a 20-minute feature race with a reverse grid top 10. But Jake, very interesting that so far we're on to rounds races 5 and 6 of the campaign, but we've had 4 different winners from 4 different races. Teddy Wilson, Sandy Mitchell, Callum Bradshaw and Matthew Gauthier Thornton coming into this, with Mitchell having a 12-point lead over Teddy Wilson after our last time out at Silverstone. It's been pretty interesting so far, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's the mark of a good championship with good competitors and great drivers within it, because you always want it to be as open and even as possible. And to look back over the first 4 races and have 4 completely different race winners, it shows that it is a very ultra-competitive grid of drivers. But what's also interesting to note is that there are about 3 or 4 drivers snapping at their heels. We could well get a 5th and then possibly even a 6th different race winner tonight.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to Toby Spooner Green. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you very much, buddy. Good to hear from you. Please feel free to get involved on the YouTube chat. We are broadcasting live on the official Downforce Racing YouTube channel, which Jake so happens to be the founder and CEO of, and I just so happen to be the operations director. So they thought us two motley crew were good to come together for the CR iRacing F3 Championship. But at the moment, looks like Piers Pryor is the one that's leading the way, a 1 minute 32.21 around this fantastic circuit here at Parc Jean Trapeau in Montreal. 4.361 kilometres, that's 2.71 miles, and it's been in use since 2002. And the person with the fastest race lap record is none other than Mercedes-AMG F1's very own Finnish hotshot, Valtteri Bottas. But yeah, coming to the end of practice here, Jake, and we're about to get qualifying underway here, but some iconic turns here, including the infamous Wall of Champions.
Absolutely, and that's going to make things very interesting for our competitors. They're obviously going to have their backs to the wall all the way through this first qualifying session, and this is where it's very easy to make a mistake. It's very easy to get things wrong, so all of our competitors are going to want to be very much on the half. They want to make sure they're very much getting themselves into a decent position from an early start. It's never going to be easy to put yourself in a decent position from the get-go, but these guys need to get their tyres and brakes up to temperature. They obviously need to get themselves into a strong position, but this is definitely going to be a very exciting night. Jake Sanson and Alex Goldschmidt with you for the Custom Racewear Formula 3 iRacing Championship, brought to you in association with Downforce Racing UK and GoBobby.uk. And it's been great to see these guys put in a fantastic show over the first 2 rounds, and with 4 different race winners, expect drama, intrigue and plenty of overtaking, especially on a circuit as good as this one.
So the Custom Racewear Formula 3 iRacing Championship is sponsored by Simutec Technologies. You can also head to Custom Racewear's official website. They're back producing their fantastic race suits, which even Jake has got one himself to use and has actually used it. So around here at the circuit, it's 14 turns, a lot of full throttle here, Jake. So the tyres, the brakes, the engines are all going to be put under strain, as well as the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very tricky circuit to get right at the best of times because it's very tough on brakes. That's one of the biggest factors around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. But it's also quite dusty. It's not the most used circuit over the course of a motor racing season. So drivers are obviously not going to find as much rubber down on the circuit as there would be at another racetrack. And that adds its own bit of challenge. These cars have got plenty of downforce and quite a bit of grip. But because it's not a circuit that's used a lot for motor racing through the entirety of the year, it's only 3 or 4 weekends of a season at most, then these guys are obviously going to have to work very hard indeed to get themselves up the order. We're watching Ben White as he pushes his way around on this first flying lap, looking at Jamie Jenkins there, who is using the traditional, well, it is traditional now, McLaren livery of his car. And I have to say, these guys pride themselves very much on looking as good as they go. Well, Sam Reed doing a fair job in his Simutec colours of car. That's quite a specific car to pick up, an important one obviously, being partnered as we are by Simutec Technologies, and it's great to have their support as always. Sammy Venables getting a start to the lap in, as they've already started to go round in pretty quick fashion, and Sammy Venables, one of the faster drivers within the field, already trying to put in a strong lap time. And he's currently there in 3rd position. He's actually in the Custom Racewear colours as he runs around the circuit. That car really does look pretty splendiferous. Fury Simsport colours for Elliot Mason. No major shocks there as he races all sorts of different sim racing leagues, but it's great to see the very familiar colour scheme of the Fury Simsport Brigade out there. Now there is the man who's got the largest fan club in the Custom Racewear iRacing F3 Championship, and that is of course Matt Caruana, who seems to have every single member of his and everybody else's family rooting for him.
Well, he's probably got me as a fan now because he followed me on Instagram earlier on this afternoon. Sandy Mitchell on a flyer is the young Scot in the number 19, currently leading the point standing from Teddy Wilson by just 12 points. There he is in the Black Bull Écurie Écosse livery there, which is he's been one of our standout performers this time around. I understand that Callum Bradshaw is not going to be here this evening. Sammy Venables goes purple in Sector 1. But has a bit of a difficult Sector 2. But one of the things that I mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, Jake, is that if you've done your 2 flying laps, any lap after that will not register. As we're getting into the 1 minute 33s, and Matthew Gauthier Thornton has gone to the top of the times with about 4 minutes gone here in Montreal. As Matt Caruana, Mr. I Have a Big Fan Club, has gone up to P8. Smithson's up into 10th ahead of Palozzi. Venables hasn't really had a great run. He's done his 2 qualifying laps, and the best he's managed is a 1 minute 44. Austin Foster in the 434, he's managed a 1 minute 56.8. So it's going to be tricky to see. Maximus Meyer up into P4 already, and we're coming towards the halfway point of the session already. But look at the gap between first and second, 29 thousandths thus far, Jake.
It's very tight, but we always knew it was going to be. Gauthier Thornton from Mitchell, Wilson and Meyer. We just saw Colin Sanzeri a short while ago. Here's Sam Reed in car number 24. Whoa! Straight into the barriers. Goodness me, that's how quickly it can turn awry. And unfortunately, because he had a car right in behind him, that went very wrong very, very quickly. Whoa, that's the end of a decent lap. That's why they call it the race. That's why they call it the Wall of Champions, because it really can catch out even the best racers out there. As we watch Teddy Wilson going through that final chicane, that's how to get it right. But it's so easy to do that because you just get the slightest clip of the curb and it does send you completely off kilter. It's so easy to get wrong.
Yeah, very much the case. Sandy Mitchell now takes pole position provisionally with 5 minutes and 30 on the clock gone. Michael Preston is the second driver in the 15 to go a sub-minute, 1 minute 33. George Palozzi goes ahead of Colin Sanzeri for P8. Philip Russell, who is currently 5th in the standings on 37 points. He's running out the top 10. And it's Jake Napthine has already started the hashtag Team Matt Caruana chants on YouTube.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest, to be fair. It's really good to see, you know, there is such a partisan support for the individual drivers, which is what we like to see. And great to have so many young racers putting in a bit of a show. There's Stephen Healy, who's still yet to put in a fast time, as of course has Piers Pryor. Now that's a bit of a surprise. I would have thought that Piers Pryor would be straight out there and straight up to the top of the timesheets, but he seems to have had a bit of a struggle.
Oh, that was a bit of a moment there, and that was on the hairpin. Whoever that was clattered into the left rear into the wall whilst trying to put the power down, and that's not exactly the place where you want to have an accident, let alone the Wall of Champions.
Very true, but essentially it now looks as though pretty much everybody has been able to get their fast time in.
Pryor's now on track, Jake. So Piers Pryor now out on circuit in the number 25. He's been doing, obviously he's just recently received his brand new Custom Racewear suit ahead of his BRDC Formula 3 campaign with Lannan Racing. So he's been chomping at the bit, and he's got the eBay special down in the student accommodation. Chair from eBay, a couple of 2x4s and a desk, a bit of an Emanuele Pirro, but this time it's a Loughborough special.
Yeah, great to see him out there. He's got such enthusiasm for every category of racing he deems worthy, but I have to say it's pretty cool to see him out there in the Simutec colours. And what's also going to be very important is that he's actually decided to wait until everybody else has gone out, so he's got a clear track essentially, as Tom King has gone through, and he's carrying the famous Fernando Alonso Renault colours from 06, I think it is. Fabulous appearance, that car, on a Formula 3 machine. Brad Gelman's trying to get a decent lap in. Oh, it's so easy to lose it there on the hairpin, which he has done. So that's his chance of getting a competitive lap time in, well and truly hogwashed. But Piers Pryor is going to be the last man to set a competitive lap time, and on his outlap, look at that, second place already. Wow. Second place, a 1:32.877, and he's got time for one more.
Yes, now he's got the run coming out of the final corner and onto the main straightaway. But yeah, I think that was Bradley Gelman that had the altercation with the wall. Look how close Pryor was on the exit of the chicane there. That was impressive commitment from the Essex/Loughborough-based driver. He's been running the BUKC.
He's gone better in the first split as well. That's worth picking up on. He's gone better in the first split. So Piers Pryor trying to go for that elusive pole position. He's come close a few times already this season. And here he is in the second split. Full commitment in the S's as he now comes down the back straight, millimetres from the wall as he's full chat on the way up. Now through the left split, fastest of all in the second sector. This could be the pole position lap.
Yes, I mean, Sandy Mitchell's already had one. And Matthew Gauthier Thornton did as well. A little bit of a lag there, which is why you can just see the car flickering ever so slightly. But Pryor now coming down the out of turn 10, 11, into 12. And now this is where you've got to really open up the taps on the engine here as he'll head towards turns 13 and 14. So here goes Pryor through the final chicane. Really nails it and misses the barrier by a absolute mere fraction. He's keeping it as far to the right as possible. Let's see what the time is. Not quite.
Boom! Actually, boom! Yes. Look at that!
1 minute 32.45 from Piers Pryor. Absolutely timed it to perfection. Brilliant job there by the number 25.
That's a wonderful, wonderful lap from Piers Pryor, and he's done that absolutely to perfection. Nailed it right at the last. And he was the last one to set a lap time as well. So Pryor from Mitchell, Preston in third place from Gautier Thornton, then Mills, Baltas, Wilson, King, Meyer and White in the top 10. Very exciting stuff and a perfect way to end a very exciting qualifying session there, Alex, right at the last.
Yeah, pretty much the top 10 was split by about 1.2 seconds. So Pryor on pole, alongside we'll have Mitchell, then it's Preston, Gautier Thornton, Mills, Baltas, Wilson, King, Meyer and White. That's the top 10. Then we go to Palozzi and Sanzeri. That rounds out row number 6. And then it's Russell, Reed, Matt Caruana starts down in 15th ahead of Smithson, Bradley Gelman, Elliot Mason, Sammy Venables starting all the way down in 19th ahead of Austin Foster, who completes the top 20, with Jamie Jenkins, Jamie Dory and Stephen Healy rounding out the 23 strong, about to go into battle here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal.
So let's get ourselves ready for a bit of a street dance now. It's going to be an amazing battle as the competitors are ready for action. And we are going to have a sensational race here at Montreal. The cars are ready in position. When the lights go out, we'll be racing here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. They all want to be at the front end of the field. They all want to give it best. And it's going to be a very exciting race from the start, with all the cars now lining up in position. Piers Pryor from Sandy Mitchell, Michael J. Preston and Matthew Gautier Thornton, Connor Mills, Yves Baltas, lights coming on. When they go out, we are racing at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Avante! And it's a cracking start from Piers Pryor. Sandy Mitchell trying to get a better one as they come off the line. And Mitchell has beaten Piers Pryor off the line initially. So a fantastic run. They're going to try and go through the first corner side by side. And Piers Pryor is going to have to yield to Sandy Mitchell. There's a bit of a twitch on the exit of the corner, but he's made it through in fair flick. This is a brilliant race battle already as Sandy Mitchell leads from Gautier Thornton. He's got past Piers Pryor. And then we've got Preston, Mills, Baltas, King and Max Meyer.
One's in the wall already on the right-hand side. My goodness me, that was close. Yeah, that's Foster and Palozzi who've had moments. So Gautier Thornton got an absolutely electric start there from fourth on the grid to get past Pryor.
It's Palozzi. It's Palozzi in trouble, I'm afraid. It's George Palozzi. Palozzi out of the race, and Venables has spun down the order. So has Philip Russell. So several drivers in trouble already. And that's...
Gelman's lost his front wing.
Yeah.
Gelman has lost his front wing too. So drama on the first lap already.
Lots of drivers in dire straits. I think Brad Gelman's had a problem of some kind as well. He's showing up down in about... well, he's actually showing on the lap charts in about first or second position, but that's because they've only just binned it out of the race. Reed is out, Gelman is out, and Venables is out of the race as well. Teddy Wilson appears to be out of the race as well in a separate incident. So we've got Mitchell leading the way, Gautier Thornton in second place, then it's Pryor and Michael J. Preston trying to reel them in from Connor Mills and Ben White, with Yves Baltas ahead of the Spaniard Max Meyer.
Yeah, Stephen Healy doesn't look like he's actually been able to join the session, so that's a real shame. I wasn't even sure if he actually qualified, but Mitchell starting to get a breakaway now from Gautier Thornton, and the gap as they cross the line is just under a second. But Piers Pryor looking menacing in the rear-view mirrors of Gautier Thornton in the 44 in P3. I think Piers is probably kicking himself a bit that he had a bit of a fold-down start there, as both Mitchell and Gautier Thornton got the jump on him very, very quickly after the lights went out.
Yeah, it's always going to be a difficult situation, and you can never really predict how it's going to work out in those opening couple of laps. You just got to have as much commitment and dedication to the craft as you possibly can, and hope that you're going to have a relatively clean run. But there is your order. Sandy Mitchell out in front from Gautier Thornton and Piers Pryor, and the battle is raging between these three early on as they are trying early doors to drop Michael J. Preston. Looks like we've lost several now. I think Thomas King and Max Meyer have gone from the fray as well. Look, so many people out of the pit lane with problems. Meyer and King have both pitted, and we can see that we've lost Reed, Smithson, Gelman, Venables, Russell, Wilson, and we've also lost Palozzi and Sanzeri, with Stephen Healy, as you mentioned, unable to start as Gautier Thornton desperately trying to hold on in front of Pryor. Pryor drifts wide at the hairpin, and that's going to cost him about a second or so.
Yeah, I mean, Max Meyer and Thomas King have come back out, so they probably might have had might have gone into the pits to reset for damage, so that's going to put them on the back foot. You can see how far they are behind.
There is Meyer.
Half a lap off the leader.
There is Meyer, having got back out again, and I think Russell's just got back out on circuit again. Thomas King has continued, but again, way down the order, unfortunately for them, so it's not really given them much to write home about. Now, Gautier Thornton is dropping back a little bit behind Sandy Mitchell. Piers Pryor, though, still there in third position, trying to make a bit of a play for things at the moment. Let's look a little bit further back. There's Connor Mills trying to close in on Preston. And then you've got Ben White in P6. Yves Baltas is in 7th place in front of Dory, Mason and Jenkins, with Matt Caruana in 11th from Foster, and then Meyer, King and Russell. They're the only ones left.
Yeah, you can see that the remainder of the cars have actually started to make their way out of the pits.
Oh, we've had a spin. We've had a spin. We've had a
That's
spin.
Harry Smithson.
It is
indeed.
Smithson.
So he drops behind Sammy Venables.
Out of the race by the look of it. So
yeah, unfortunately. But Jamie Dory is the one that's made the most positions in this race, from 22nd to P8 already. Goes the number 22, same number as what Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button sported. That was the when they won their respective titles, if memory serves me correctly.
And ironically, it's also the number he's racing with now. So he started P22, and that's the number he's back. Now, Piers Pryor's caught back up to Gautier Thornton. Gautier Thornton trying to hang on to it. And Piers Pryor now swarming all over the back of him. Sandy Mitchell out in front, having a lovely time of it. But Piers Pryor is on the offensive as he closes up on Matthew Gautier Thornton. They come down the back straight and up towards the chicane, wherein lies the Wall of Champions. And they're going to be pushing it. Here comes Pryor up the inside. Surely Gautier Thornton is going to have to yield here. Piers Pryor gets it nicely done there up the inside. And that's into 2nd place.
Yeah, he had the real carry of momentum down the back straight away into the Quebec Wall, as it's more commonly known. That's the original name. But interesting fact for those that aren't aware, that the circuit was actually called the Ile Notre Dame circuit until obviously Gilles' passing in 1982 when he was racing for Ferrari. So that was for the first 4 years, and since then it's hosted events such as the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix, the Champ Car World Series up until 2006, the Xfinity NASCAR Series, Canadian Tire Series, and the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, and the Montreal 200 from 2007 until 2012.
A third of the race has gone already. It's incredible how quickly time flies in this championship. Michael J. Preston now trying to gain ground on Matthew Gautier Thornton, whilst behind them we've got Ben White trying to close up on the 2 cars in front of him. One of them's actually being lapped, I believe. Connor Mills is in there, but he's trying to lap. Is that Max Meyer? No, I don't think that's Meyer. I think that might be King, actually, that he's coming up to lap. Oh no, there's Thomas King, unfortunately, having another moment, spinning off the course. Austin Foster is running in the prolific Carlin colours. But I was trying to get a read on who it was that's having the problem. Oh, it's Sam Reed. Sam Reed was getting out of the way there for Connor Mills, who's in 5th position. Sam Reed having had his problems earlier on. And that's going to make life a little bit tougher for him as he tries to continue his move forward. But it's Mitchell from Pryor, then Gautier Thornton, Preston and Connor Mills. Ben White is in P6 from Baltas, Dory, Jenkins and Elliot Mason, just ahead of Matt Caruana.
Yeah, Caruana's not had a great run, as a lot of people would have thought, including his fan club. He's up from P11 up to P11 from P15 as Mason, I think, has got past Jenkins for P9. But Pryor now has put in the fastest lap of anybody in this race, 1 minute 32.41. That is quicker than his qualifying time, I believe. So he's definitely closing on Sandy Mitchell, and you know we're nearly 7 minutes through this race, and look how close he is. He's getting closer and closer to Sandy Mitchell. Now that they're going to have some back markers to negotiate, this is going to give Piers Pryor a little bit of an advantage, I think. But Mitchell will get it too, because they'll have the slipstream coming into the chicanes, and then get the power out coming through the corners.
Well, there's a slight problem now, because obviously he's got to try and time this move as well as possible. But obviously the car in front is being lapped and does get out of the way. That's good, very good sporting there from Stephen Healy, who's obviously had his problems in the race, but he has now allowed Piers Pryor to go through. Sandy Mitchell has got an issue of his own, because up the road in front of him, I think that's Philip Russell, who is trying to run his own race essentially now. But Philip Russell actually does the decent thing, and he actually goes off the circuit there at the chicane. He rejoins, but he's got to be careful that he doesn't hold up Piers Pryor, which he does not. So Piers Pryor goes through, no problem at all. So Philip Russell doing the sporting thing, but he's obviously now racing Sam Reed and Teddy Wilson behind him, so he doesn't want to lose too much ground. But that was well sporting from Thomas King. He knew that, from Philip Russell. He knew that was going to be an issue if he didn't watch himself. There's Max Meyer, having had his problems on the first lap. He's there in 13th now, trying to chase down Foster. But the gap between Mitchell and Pryor steady at 2 seconds.
Yeah, just noticed there's a personal best for Yves Baltas, who's currently 9th in the standings on 25 points, just one behind Michael Preston, who is another 4 well, he's up in P4 at the minute, having started from the inside of row number 2 and the number 15. And he's trying to close on Gauthier Thornton. Thornton is actually a little bit quicker. Piers Pryor and Sandy Mitchell, Jake, they seem to be quite concurrent on lap time, so someone goes off onto the grass, I think just to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Good spatial awareness from our drivers here in the Custom Racewear F3 iRacing Championship.
It was Stephen Healy. It was Healy who went off there. So Healy is 2 laps down after his earlier problems. But he has been able to keep going. There's Sandy Mitchell, who's now less than 2 seconds ahead of Piers Pryor. So Pryor is chipping away at it. And with 5 minutes to go and a 2-second advantage, it could still go either way here. But if Mitchell wins the race, it will be the first time a driver has won 2 races this season. If Piers Pryor wins, we'll have 5 different winners from the first 5 races.
Yeah, that sounds quite familiar to another championship that I was commentating on until quite recently, where they had the E-Team Brit Summer Series, and that had 8 different winners from the 8 races that took place. So you never know, lightning could strike twice in 2 different categories. But the gap between Mitchell and Pryor, that's still not fluctuating as much as I would expect to be in the favour of Piers Pryor, Jake, because if Sandy Mitchell's got clean air, he's going to run pretty comparably to Pryor, but Pryor was actually quicker on that last lap by about 0.3 of a second.
Very true. Palozzi's in the pits as Baltas gets his fastest lap of the race so far, his personal best. Teddy Wilson likewise, as Jamie Jenkins closes up on Yves Baltas to try and make up the position. But he's got Gelman in front of him, who he's trying to lap. There's Ben White in the Year 1 colour scheme, one of the newer sim racing teams. And he's doing an absolutely phenomenal job there in P6, just trying to keep it together. And that's Piers Pryor. Piers Pryor's crashed it. Piers Pryor's had an accident. Unbelievable bad luck for Piers Pryor. He's binned it on the second chicane. Now, whether that was self-inflicted or whether he had an issue with a back marker, I don't know. But Piers Pryor has ended up in the wall and is out.
So that's a real disaster. And you know what that means? We're going to have a bit of a change a little bit further. Well, I think this is going to allow Gauthier Thornton to really go after. He could overtake Bradshaw in the point standings, and not only that, look at where Teddy Wilson is. This could really put Matthew Gauthier Thornton into the championship hunt with Sandy Mitchell. Sandy Mitchell, he's 12 points ahead of Wilson, let's not forget, and a further point ahead of Bradshaw. So this could be the opportunity that Gauthier Thornton needs to go after Sandy Mitchell here, Jake, in the championship standings.
And he's never going to get a better opportunity either, because with Piers Pryor out of the race, he was the real threat to the victory as far as Sandy Mitchell was concerned. Gauthier Thornton is now 5 seconds back, would you believe? So it's definitely not going well from his point of view. So, and with obviously you've got Piers Pryor having gone into the wall, and Callum Bradshaw is not here. So Gauthier Thornton definitely going to pick up some big points, but Sandy Mitchell essentially does not really have much of a threat now in the lead with 3 minutes to go roughly and a 5-second advantage. This is his race to lose.
Yeah, make that 5.1 seconds. I mean, Preston is closing on Gauthier Thornton a little bit here for as Yves Baltas. Yeah, he had a bit of a moment earlier on, but he's now in P7 as a result of Piers Pryor. I mean, they look like the right front was just absolutely been obliterated. And there was more inner camber than I've ever seen on a Formula 3 car in my life. Here's a great battle here, side by side.
That's Teddy Wilson. He's battling with Dory. Now that's not right, because Dory is ahead of him in P6. And, well, that's caused a major issue. Meanwhile, Piers Pryor has come back out on circuit again. Because, of course, the thing with iRacing is if you have an accident like that, you can go back to the pits, get the car repaired, and bring it back out on circuit again, but you lose the time that you gained. But Jamie Dory must be getting quite fed up here, because he's got Teddy Wilson in front of him, who is a lap down, and Jamie Dory does not really want to have to trip over him in the grand scheme of things. So where is Piers Pryor? There he is. He's back out on track, currently running in P14. So he's going to get points from this race, but certainly nowhere near what he was expecting to get from it about 4 laps ago. He was expecting to close up on Sandy Mitchell and challenge him for the victory. There's Michael Preston, who is in 3rd position ahead of Connor Mills and Ben White. But a tragic end to the battle for Piers Pryor, who now rejoins in 14th.
Yeah, pretty much a lap down off of Sandy Mitchell, who's currently leading. and he's still got that massive 5-second gap. 13 minutes, 18 seconds gone in this 15-minute sprint race. The next one that we'll have after the 10-minute warm-up will be a reverse top 10 20-minute feature race. So yeah, I mean, Mitchell's looking really, really calm and composed. I mean, let's not forget the calibre of this young Scottish driver who's been racing all over the place. You know, he's a GT3 junior driver with Barwell Motorsport and Wayne Taylor Racing. He's raced in what was formerly known as Blancpain, but is now the International GT World Challenge and also the American Super Trofeo. So, and the thing is that you can't deny how good he is, but then you've also got the likes of Matthew Gauthier Thornton. Okay, Matthew might be 5.3 seconds behind, but he still has this opportunity. I think with any championship run, Jake, you need to have consistency above everything else in order to make sure that you've got the right opportunities. Matthew Preston puts in the best effort of the race so far, a 1 minute 32.94, another personal best for Philip Russell. Teddy Wilson down in 17th still, 1 minute 33.41, the Custom Racewear ambassador. But it's not been quite the race he'd expect, but as Jamie Dory...
Lovely move from Jakins. Jakins goes around the outside of Mason to beat into the braking zone there in the final chicane. And that was for P9. Beautifully done.
Yeah. Drivers that have made the most positions, one of them is Jakins, up from P21 to P8. And now Jamie Dory started a position behind and is 2 places ahead in 6th. So that's great work by the 22. Obviously, that number's giving him a heck of a lot of luck at the moment. So we'll see.
Time runs down to nothing, and we're on the final lap home as Sandy Mitchell blasts down the back straight on his run to the Quebec chicane, the Quebec wall for the last time, the Wall of Champions as it's known, but he has been absolutely flawless in this race. Even with the pressure of Piers Pryor earlier on, he has soaked it up and given himself the best chance of waltzing into the lead of the championship by a long way. Sandy Mitchell comes home and weaves across the line in victory as Sandy Mitchell takes the victory here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. A brilliant run from him as Matthew Gauthier Thornton beats Preston over the line for second position. Very nicely done indeed as well. Connor Mills comes home for P4 in the end in front of Ben White, Jamie Dory and Yves Baltas. And further back, we've still got this battle going on between Jamie Jakins and Elliot Mason, and it is going to be a run to the line between these two because Mason has not given up on Jakins. If he makes a mistake in the final chicane, he's going to get 8th place away from him. But it's been a fantastic run to the victory for Sandy Mitchell. It could have been so easily a victory for Piers Pryor, but it's just that one momentary lapse in concentration or a trip up from a back marker, whatever it might have been, that has cost him dear. Matt Caruana comes home in 10th position in front of Maximus Meyer, and that's considering that Max Meyer had his problems on the first lap, so he fought his way back into 11th place. Not a bad comeback drive from him at all. Austin Foster in 12th position, Thomas King in 13th place, and Piers Pryor is going to come home in a rather solitary and very disappointing 14th after his trip into the barrier. But what a win for Sandy Mitchell.
Yeah, rounding out the top 15 was Team Fordzilla's Philip Russell in the 77. I know that I would imagine that Philip will probably look to have a better opportunity in the next race, which is coming up in around 10 or so minutes time. But yeah, I mean, Sandy Mitchell, hand on heart, is now the first double winner of the Custom Racewear Formula 3 iRacing Championship, brought to you in association with Danforth Racing UK and GoBobby.uk. And GoBobby have given us the thumbs up and the checkered flag on YouTube. Thank you, guys. But also the championship sponsored by Simutec Technologies, based out of Milton Keynes.
It's been a fabulous first race, but it gives us plenty of things to talk about in terms of getting ready for the second, because now, of course, we have a first double winner for the season. And I wasn't entirely sure, and I don't think any of the drivers were entirely sure that we were going to get that coming into this first race, especially considering how even and close it was in preparation for it, because there were several drivers in competition for the victory. But as you can see, drivers are getting ready for the warm-up and they are heading out onto the circuit. So it is going to be another fantastic race. And of course that means that the man who's finished 10th in that race will start from pole position. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Matt Caruana.
Oh, the fan club will be screaming to the hills and through the mountains, a la Julie Andrews from The Sound of Music. The hills are alive with the sound of Matt Caruana.
Indeed they are.
Sorry, just had to do that.
Well, they're going to have a lot of fun with it, to be fair, because he's really going to get himself into the best possible position to get a race victory. It won't come any easier than that, and I think he's well aware of the pressure that's going to be on him as a result of the performance he did in the first race. But he handled himself incredibly well, considering the situation that was acquitted him. I mean, you've obviously got to drive through the pressure of the first few parts of the race, and let's not forget that, you know, you've got some very tough people to race with in this championship, and it's easy to drop the ball. Look at the people who did in the earlier race. Max Meyer, Teddy Wilson, and of course Piers Pryor, all making mistakes in the early stages, or at least getting involved in the incidents if they weren't the ones who made the mistake. So you never really know who's going to give you the best possible chance of running at the sharp end. But this man will get to start from pole position at a very tough racetrack.
And the chants have already started on YouTube. My goodness me, the trend has kept on going. The Caruana chant, as I'm going to call it now. As soon as I see that, seems like Jake Napthine and Keelan Watkins are shouting from the rooftops or from their window balconies thereof.
Yeah, he's cheering Matt G. I think it's meant to be Matt C, unless of course Matt G is his rapper name.
Or is he talking about Matty Gallagher from WTF1?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's not a massive surprise to have seen Matt Gallagher here if he wanted to be, but I think he's racing elsewhere tonight.
Because they had the congratulations, first of all, to WTF1 for celebrating their 10th anniversary.
Indeed.
With the charity race last night, and they raised over £15,000. So we can't really not say, we need to say something about that. Because, someone's had a bit of a moment.
That's Mitchell. That is Sandy Mitchell. That's the first mistake he has made all weekend. Oh, and that's Mason. He's made one now as well.
Was that at the same spot?
No, it was a couple of corners after, I think, Sandy Mitchell. After Mason, but yeah, even in the warm-up they are just trying to find a little bit of extra time and just trying to push that limit a little bit more. It doesn't really make a massive amount of difference as to what they do in terms of lap times in the warm-up, but it just gives the drivers a little bit more of an opportunity to try something different that perhaps they wouldn't risk in the race itself. There's Teddy Wilson. He's just gone fastest in warm-up, 1:33.6 in front of Sanzeri, Baltas. Brad Gelman has just crossed the line. He's gone fourth quickest now in front of Sam Reed, George Palozzi and Harry Smithson. Everybody else is on their first flying lap, so it doesn't really give us a massive indication as to who's doing what, although Smithson has just popped in on a 1:35.5.
Yeah, I kind of really thought that with regards to when Sandy Mitchell started spinning, I thought the Swan Lake music was going to start echoing in the background.
It was a little like that, yeah.
it was a bit like that, and then we had the sympathy spin, thanks to Elliot Mason. But it just goes to show that, as you said, this track doesn't involve like a lot of other Grand Prix circuits, and it's dusty. You know, you're right by the riverside. You know, going in, trying to get into the paddock. Normally, you go on the boats over the river. And it has a really wonderful ambience here in Montreal at the circuit, Jake. But it is one of those classic tracks. I mean, we've seen, obviously, the infamous pit lane incident with Lewis Hamilton going into the back of Kimi Raikkonen. Robert Kubica's massive accident back in the late 2000s in the BMW Sauber. But then he came back and won the race, which was his only Grand Prix victory, let's not forget. As Jamie Jenkins decides to go and do a bit of a Matthias Ekstrom grass cutting at one of the chicanes there. I like his livery, the McLaren, the current McLaren livery. That's really, really good there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's funny you mentioned the Montreal pit lane exit incident between Hamilton, Rosberg, Raikkonen and Kubica, because Kubica was the only one who didn't get hit in some way in that incident. But if you look back through the years, that pit lane exit has caused all sorts of controversies over the years, because you've got Nigel Mansell exited the pit lane along with Gerhard Berger, and they ended up both getting excluded as the race got going in 1989. They left the pits before the race had even started, essentially. It was a very weird situation, that one. And then you go back a few years ago, Montoya got the black flag for exiting the pit lane under a red light. I think he did it twice, in fact, in consecutive years. So it's one of those circuits that really does have a tendency to catch people out. And then, of course, who can forget what for many people in the modern era called the greatest Grand Prix of all time, which is the 2011 running of the race, when rain came out on around lap 23 and the race actually was red flagged, and there was a 4-hour delay roughly. No, sorry, a 2-hour delay, but then that meant that the Grand Prix itself lasted a good 4 hours, the longest Grand Prix in history. And from the back of the grid at one stage, from dead last, it was Jenson Button that came through to win it.
Yeah, when Sebastian Vettel in his Red Bull days made an uncharacteristic mistake on the final lap of the race. Yeah, because it was 5 pit stops. He collided. He tangled with Hamilton, his teammate at that time, 2 years before he joined. Lewis joined Mercedes, and then I think Jenson. He was always that person that knew when to put the slicks on, and he timed it absolutely right.
Oh, absolutely.
And just the sheer emotion. He said, "God, what a race, guys! What a race!" And he steals it from Sebastian Vettel, who makes a uncharacteristic mistake when he was dominant in his Red Bull years, to take candy away from him like a baby.
Well, here are the F3 drivers getting themselves up to speed. There's Michael Preston running in the Foster's colours. I'm not sure if that's his particular tipple. Well, Matt Caruana's got massive confidence coming off the back of lining up pole position for this race. Look at that, a 1:33.1, and he pulls straight off the course. But that's going to give him plenty of confidence heading into the race, that he can pull out a lap like that out of the bag in warm-up. And that's exactly what you need, knowing that you can go into the race that you're starting from in pole position as the fastest in that particular time period. It is important psychologically, because it gives you that get up and go, that onus to really push for the victory.
Very much the case. I think, what was it, Jake Napthine has just said, Matt is a very talented young fellow. I reckon he has got a rap career. I hate to think what he might say to that.
That was the Matt G comment, I think, that was taken completely out of proportions.
I know, exactly. I was wondering whether it was going to have a C or a G behind it, but no. Just if you're going to put a name in there, put it in fully. We don't want abbreviations. It makes our job a bit more difficult.
It does.
As if it's bad enough already.
Well, there's Yves Baltas in the Fanatec colours, going second fastest in the final minute and a half of qualifying. He then pulls it over, which is quite commonplace in warm-up. Once you've got the lap you want, the drivers do tend to just pull across and let it all finish up. Where's Piers Pryor? He's on a fast lap at the moment, so he'll want to make up for the incident he had earlier on as well, let's not forget. And he's got a good chance of a good race here, because obviously, having won the first race, Sandy Mitchell's going to be starting down in 10th and Piers Pryor's going to be starting in 14th, so there's every chance of a good race in the midfield for those two as they both try and charge their way through. This second race definitely has the makings of a classic.
And that's what we've seen so far. Obviously, when we were at Imola for the opening round, then Silverstone a couple of weeks ago. For those wondering, our final round of this inaugural Custom Racewear Formula 3 iRacing Championship heads to the iconic Circuit Zandvoort next week, where we will have, I think, a great old school track that the drivers will really love. And in 2013, I was there with the likes of Lello Marcello, Felix Rosenquist, amongst others. Daniel Cadea, I think, had just moved into DTM that year, and that was the race weekend when Mike Rockenfeller won the 2013 title, finishing second in the race after Augusto Farfus won it convincingly, but because Rocky finished in second, he picked up the title with one race to go.
So we come to the closing stages, and it's Michael Preston for the record that has the fastest time, and that's a brilliant way to go into the race. Connor Mills in second place from Matt Caruana and Yves Baltas, and so we're going to find Matt Caruana lining up in first position, and it's going to be a really exciting and very close run thing. Here is the starting grid for this race. It is Matt Caruana who lines up at the front end of the grid from Elliot Mason, then Jamie Jenkins in third position alongside Yves Baltas, Jamie Dorey and Ben White from Connor Mills and Michael Preston, then Matthew Gauthier-Thornton and Sandy Mitchell. Behind them it's Max Meyer and Austin Foster. Continuing the grid, even though it's not on your screen, Thomas King and Piers Pryor from Philip Russell and Sam Reed, Teddy Wilson, Bradley Gelman, George Palozzi, Stephen Healy, Colin Sanzeri, Harry Smithson and Sammy Venables. So the cars are getting themselves into position as we get ourselves into a strong position. We are about to go green with this second race of the day. And boy, oh boy, is it going to give us plenty of drama as we get ourselves ready for the race action here. Just a few seconds to go before the start of race action. And we are away in racing. Off the line they go. And it's an absolute flyer from Matt Caruana as he comes up to the first corner. Trying to get his way through in a strong position there. And it looks like there's already been a little bit of banter behind them as the cars are trying to edge their way through the first couple of corners. Looks to me as though there's already a pretty strong race battle going a cropper. Looks like a couple of drivers have already found themselves in a very interesting position as they come through. But I think we've lost Piers Pryor down the order. He's got caught up in some incidents, as to Matthew Gauthier-Thornton and Max Meyer. Teddy Wilson's down the order as well. Looks to me as though...
Jamie Jenkins is in the pits.
Yeah. Sandy Mitchell, though, has managed to get his way up into 6th position early doors. So a fantastic start to race action from Sandy Mitchell. He's already got himself into a great position as he moves his way forward.
Sam Reed's got past Bradley Gelman for P9. Sammy Venables up from 23rd to 12th place. Matthew Gauthier-Thornton started P9, now down into P15. Max Meyer looks to have had an incident. Oh, Gauthier-Thornton, it's all changing. Max Meyer drops all the way down towards the end of the field. Philip Russell is down there with him, as is Colin Sanzeri. But Matt Caruana...
Yeah, there's Meyer. There's Meyer. He's gone off. So that's at the chicane. He gets himself back onto the course, as well as Philip Russell having an incident there. And Matthew Gauthier-Thornton going wheel to wheel with Elliot Mason just in behind Ben White.
Yeah, Baltas, I think, had a really good start, and he's only 0.6 of a second behind Matt Caruana. So very much the case of let's see who gets the upper hand on who. Dory, Preston, Mitchell. So it looks like
Connor Mills. Yeah, Connor Mills had an incident there at the final turn as Sandy Mitchell tries to make his bid to get past Thomas King. And Mitchell's got to be patient here. He's just got to wait for his opportunity to get on Thomas King. Meanwhile, out in front, it is still Matt Caruana who leads the way here. There he is. He's got Yves Baltas chasing him down. But Caruana leads from Baltas, Dory, Preston, King, Mitchell, Smithson, Reed, Healy and Piers Pryor in P10.
This is going to change the dynamic of, I think, the lower part of the top 10. Because when you look at where Caruana is, he was 7th coming into this weekend. And then Yves Baltas 9th place. So this could really change everything for them. As Sammy Venables, he was running in the top 15. He's now in the pit, I believe.
Yeah, that's not gone well at all, and that's not where he wanted to be. Now, how about this? We got Preston being caught by King and Mitchell. So this is going to be a pretty close run battle as King makes his move on the inside of Preston. Mitchell's going to storm by, and Mitchell's going to line up the move on Thomas King in the same breath. And he's through on the inside. Lovely move from Sandy Mitchell. He takes 2 in 1.
That was definitely threaded the eye of the needle there from Sandy Mitchell. Brilliant job there. And now he's got 4 drivers in front of him to try and close up on. But look at how close King is right on his back bumper in the Team Spirit Fernando Alonso colours. Mitchell isn't going to have it easy, I think, if King can keep with him as well as Preston.
So Caruana and Baltas are still battling over the race victory. Let's have a look at it. There is Caruana, and he's holding his nerve out in front of Yves Baltas. He's got to hold this together now for 16.5 minutes. It's not going to be easy, especially with the American piling on the pressure of Yves Baltas in 2nd place. But Caruana is a fighter, and he is a very talented young man. He's going to push himself to the limit, and hopefully he'll be able to hang on in front of Baltas. We've got Jamie Dory there in 3rd place from Sandy Mitchell now, having got his way over to P4. Then it is King and Smithson, Reed, Healy, Wilson and Pryor. Have we lost... I think we've lost Ben White. Ben White's dropped down the order. So he's
down at 17th position behind Michael Preston. Mason's in the pits.
So Preston went off. Preston went off as well then. There he is in 16th place, and he's gone a long way down the order.
Well, that was a bit of a drama. I don't think Preston really wanted there, did he? There's Gauthier-Thornton, now still in P12. So he's made up a couple of positions, having dropped initially down to P14 on the opening lap. But yeah, we're with Harry Smithson, who's trying to catch up with Sam Reed. Smithson's made up the most positional gains, 15, so he started from 23rd, now up into P7. Reed's made up 10 places in his own respect in the 24, and is just up ahead of the number 41. A little bit further back from them is Stephen Healy and Teddy Wilson, and they're battling over 8th position. Healy started in 20th, now up to 8th place.
What a battle this is. This is Austin Foster versus Matthew Gauthier-Thornton, and they're wheel to wheel. Austin Foster in the Carlin colours and Matthew Gauthier-Thornton having a terrific run as Yves Baltas sets the fastest lap of the race. Now watch Gauthier-Thornton. He's going to try and line up Foster as they come down the straight here, up towards the right-hander, which is the first part of this chicane, up towards the Wall of Champions. Matthew Gauthier-Thornton decides against it. Look, he's backed off the challenge there, and I think it's because he's got a little bit of damage to the right front there of the wing, so it's a little bit off kilter. Piers Pryor, meanwhile, up the road from them, has set the fastest lap, and he's caught up to Stephen Healy, so he's going to try and make his move up into 9th position, but he's got to time it right. This is the point in the race now where Piers is in a strong position. He's got the chance here to get into the top 6 and score some big points, but he has to be patient. He can't just go gung-ho. That's nicely lined up from Piers Pryor. He waited until Stephen Healy took the racing line, kept on the inside line, and nailed the place.
It's about a second and a half adrift of Teddy Wilson there offers. Colin Sanzeri has an off-track moment. Ben White does as well. Oh my goodness. And the chant that's coming through is going, "We love you, Matthew. We do." A new Caruana chant has now come onto YouTube.
Well, that's Wilson taking... Wilson's got Smithson. Wilson got Smithson there in the chicane, and that's going to put Piers Pryor in the draft. So Smithson, he's going straight back on the inside of Wilson. He's going to run wide, and he drives into the side of him, and Piers Pryor's got them both.
Oh my goodness me, and that's put him up to P8, and it's kicking off behind Piers Pryor at the moment, so that's a three-way scrap between Healy, Smithson and Wilson all over P9. Not what they wanted, and I think Piers Pryor's probably grinning like a Cheshire cat. He's got all the green. It's 3 wide down the back straightaway, and that's Wilson up the inside, but he has to slot back into position. Smithson going into Healy there.
I saw that coming a mile away. That was so inevitable because Smithson is a little bit later on the brakes than Healy had been for the previous 3 corners. He just locked up, tapped the side pod, and that was enough to spin them both around. Wilson did exactly the right thing. He backed out of the corner. He let them have the accident and then ran round the left of them. That was so well read by Teddy Wilson. He could see that incident was coming, and he read it with perfection.
And looks like, Matthew Gauthier-Thornton in the pits as well now. Currently down in P15, but I'm sure that Piers Pryor, when he got past those 3 that were battling behind him, as Matt Caruana is only half a second ahead of Yves Baltas. This is getting really, really close. But look at the fastest lap now, Jake. It's Sandy Mitchell, and he's trying to close on the 2 that are going to battle away, and this is going to give the number 19 from Scotland a perfect opportunity to make it 3 wins here. Caruana runs wide. Baltas side by side with Caruana, who manages to keep the position for the minute.
And
my goodness,
and look in the background. Look back. That's Sandy Mitchell. So if these 2 get into the scrap, Sandy Mitchell's right there to take a second victory in as many races, and his 3rd of the season. Caruana almost bolted to the inside line as they come down to the braking zone for the chicane. He's going to get a heavy braking zone. Watch Baltas. He's going to try and sprint out of the braking zone of the chicane and get back on him on the switchback. Baltas has got good speed and momentum out of the chicane because Matt Caruana was defending. Baltas goes one way, now comes the other into the first corner. Baltas takes the lead from Matt Caruana. Nicely done, and that's going to put Sandy Mitchell right behind both men.
That was a very well-timed move by Yves Baltas. A personal best there from Thomas King and also Sam Reed. Now Reed trying to close up on Jamie Dory for P5. There's Sandy Mitchell. And look at the gap now, Jake. It's 1.4 seconds between 2nd and 3rd position. There's Piers Pryor now closing on Sam Reed. And these 2 guys have been competitive against each other in the Rye House Pro Kart Championship. I know them both very, very well. This is the battle for P6. And look at Pryor. He's just waiting for the opportune moment. And I think he senses that he's going to get fit. He's going to get the position off of Reed. Here he goes up the inside. Nicely done. Piers Pryor absolutely timing that to perfection.
Well, when they're both in Custom Racewear colours, the one thing you don't want to do is run into each other. It's not the greatest advert in the world, and that was well read by Sam Reed, but it was nice and clinical by Piers Pryor. Caruana has not given up the hunt for victory here. Even though he's let Baltas go, he still thinks that if he pressures the American enough and stays hot on his rear bumper, staring at the diffuser, he's got a good chance here of getting back onto him, especially now that Sandy Mitchell is going to join the party. If Caruana's smart here, he might even let the situation unfold, because if he lets Mitchell get him, but looks after the tyres, looks after the brakes, he can let Mitchell go. Mitchell will obviously be trying to wrestle the victory off a very hungry and very determined Yves Baltas, who's going to defend like crazy. If there's a little bit of a discrepancy between them, they could both go wide, and that could be enough to give Matt Caruana back the lead. He's got to be thinking about that, but he's made the mistake there in the hairpin. Now, if I'm Caruana, I'm not going to mess around too much trying to recover that. If it's inevitable that Mitchell's going to get him, he may as well let him go and let Sandy Mitchell do all the hard work on Yves Baltas.
Very much the case, because that will give Caruana the slipstream advantage that he needs to keep the tow with him. And I've just been looking at the lap times. Baltas was the slowest to 1 minute 33.3. Caruana actually was slower by 7/10, obviously, and then had that mistake. Sandy Mitchell, 1 minute 32.8, and he's been consistently in the high 1 minute 32s. Here's Piers Pryor, 14.6 seconds off the leaders, but he's not that far away from Jamie Dorey in 5th place from the 20, who's in the 22. So Piers Pryor has just under 10 minutes to try and close the door and see if he can get a top 5 finish this time around.
He's got 10 minutes to do it, you're right, so there's still plenty of time for that to become an issue. Now there's Matt Caruana. Sandy Mitchell is now right underneath him. Now if I'm Caruana, the only way to win this race now is to let Mitchell go and get into his slipstream, because that gap between Baltas and Caruana has grown to 1.3. Matt's got to play the game here. He's got to let Sandy go. Here comes Sandy Mitchell. Now if Matt's smart, he'll let Sandy go. Yes, good boy. Good boy. That's exactly how to do this race. You've still got a chance to win. You've just got to slot in behind Sandy. Sandy's clearly quicker over 1 lap. Yes, this is how to do it. Matt's doing exactly the right thing. He's slotting in behind Sandy Mitchell. He's letting Sandy do all the hard work. Now he just needs to follow in behind. He needs to pressure Sandy, get Sandy to go a bit quicker, close up on Yves Baltas, and make him do the hard work, and then be there to pounce when the chance comes.
The only thing is that with what's just happened, Mitchell's lost 0.3 of a second behind Yves Baltas, who's just put in his personal best, a 1 minute 32.7. Mitchell and Caruana, respectively, a 1 minute 33.0 and 1:33.9. As there's Jamie Dorey in the 22. Now he's Piers Pryor is actually closing on him, and Pryor has done a 1 minute 32.48, the quickest lap of the race, and he was 1.3 seconds quicker. No, actually more than that. I'm very much mistaken, about 1.8 seconds quicker than Jamie Dorey on that last lap alone. So Pryor's got some pace in that car, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's very much at home in this car, and that's why he'll be kicking himself for having made the mistake in the previous race, because when he's in the rhythm in this car, he is so lightning quick. There's not many drivers on the current grid who can take a candle to him when he's absolutely on it. So it's always going to be a little bit tricky. Well, slight glitch there, but Jamie Dorey still pushing after Thomas King. You can see King in the distance there, 5 seconds off the lead, but Mitchell is dropping Matt Caruana. But that's not a panic for Matt. 3rd position is a very respectable position for him to finish in, and he's not banking on that 3rd place. He wants to see if Sandy Mitchell and Yves Baltas get into the battle. If they do, then Matt is right there. This turkey is ready for plucking.
Yeah, I think Smithson had a bit of a spin earlier on. Ben White also had an off-track excursion. Thomas King, he's getting a bit fired up now, as he's just put in a 1 minute 33.1. Another personal best by Jamie Dorey, 1 minute 33.8, as Piers Pryor is less than 3 seconds adrift off of the number 22. There's Philip Russell from Team Fordzilla. Better run for him at the moment in the number 77. He's up from 15th to 11th place, and he's 1.6 seconds behind Stephen Healy, and that's the battle for 10th position. And Russell puts in his best effort of the lap race so far, a 1 minute 33.565. And that was nearly 5/10 quicker than Healy. There's Sam Reed. He looks to be having a bit of an only the lonely race now that Piers Pryor has got past him. And there's Preston down in 13th place. And he's about 5.3 seconds ahead of Max Meyer, with Elliot Mason rounding out the top 15. But it's still pretty close between... now look at the gap between Mitchell and Baltas. We now go onto the back straightaway. Matt Caruana, I think, has heard you, Jake. I think he might have heard you saying, yeah, I will slot in behind and see how quickly Mitchell catches up to Yves and see if anything happens between the pair of them. Because effectively, he'll have enough distance to react accordingly if the two in front tangle.
Well, that's the thing. All he needs to do is essentially be around 2 seconds back from the battle for the victory. He doesn't need to be any closer than that, because essentially once they come through the trickier parts of the course, if he's 2 seconds back, he's got time to respond if anything were to occur. Baltas and Mitchell are about to get into it, and Matt's a wise guy. Look, he knows that if this were a qualifying session, Mitchell would beat him. He's got a little bit more time than him over 1 lap. But in racing, you've got to use advantages like that to your own advantage. The fact that Mitchell is quicker over one lap means that he'll close up on Baltas before the end of the race, and they'll start to get into it. The smart racer is not necessarily the fastest one. It's the one who can read the situation, figure out where to position the car, keep yourself in the right place at the right time, and be there when the opportunity opens up. The top 3 drivers, all 3 of them can win this race quite easily. Baltas has a great chance to defend, to keep Mitchell at bay. Mitchell over the one lap is the fastest of the 3 drivers, but Caruana is the smart cookie there in 3rd place, who can just let the carnage in front of him happen, and he can take advantage.
Very much a case of the tortoise and the hare, and Matt Caruana definitely playing the part of the tortoise, and the hare is the one that's up in front of him, as there's Piers Pryor.
He's got Dory. He's got past Jamie Dory, so that's into P5 now for Piers Pryor. Big points being snatched away here in the reverse grid race from Piers Pryor, and that's why you never give up. But watch Jamie Dory. He's got good slipstream, so he's going to draw alongside Piers Pryor. He's going to get past him initially, but this is where it's all going to come down to who's got the best braking foot. Now, look, that's sensible from Pryor. What he's done there is he's backed out of it, given Dory back the corner, but he's going to be stronger on the run down to the first corner. So this is where he's got his good chance. He's going to have an opportunity here. Up to the inside line, and Pryor makes it stick again. Lovely job.
Yeah, I think it was absolute textbook there, but that was close from Dory. Nearly went into the back rear diffuser of the rear diffuser of Piers Pryor there, but yeah, I think
now hang on. That's Caruana. Look, he's made a mistake somewhere, and he's dropped back into the path of Thomas King, so he's had an issue somewhere. I think that might have been at the final corner that he's had a bit of a moment. Oh, wow, how about this one? We've got Foster, Preston, Healy, absolutely locking horns as they come up to the first corner. Preston going to try and get his way up the inside of Foster. Nice job. He's got through. So it's going to be about who manages to save this one as they come through. Foster's got the door left open a little bit there for Stephen Healy. Healy's got a little bit of momentum, and he's going to try and make his bid into the braking zone, but he thinks better of it. Great racing everywhere you look.
Thank goodness he didn't do a Fernando Alonso.
But look at that exit! Look at that exit! He's got him!
Absolutely nailed that one like it was going out of fashion. My goodness.
Beautifully done. He read that one quite carefully, and that was how he was able to just run the ring round the outside, essentially. Thomas King now with a chance of getting 3rd position, so he's not want to lose that one. Palozzi is going side by side with Teddy Wilson. Wilson's got him, so Wilson into 8th position. That's more points gained, and from his point of view, that couldn't have been better timed. Baltas now sets his personal best lap of the race with 2.5 minutes to go, and he needed to because he's got Sandy Mitchell reading him in. This is a great drive from Baltas. He wants his first win of the year, and he's now looking good for it.
Yeah, he gained another 0.2 of a second approximately off of Sandy Mitchell there. But yeah, that was quite interesting indeed. I think Baltas wants to get a win, and that will hopefully get him out of the bottom 3 of the top 10. Because coming into this race, the first race of the weekend.
That's Mason. Mason's had a spin at the back of the field there. Unfortunate, but that's what can happen sometimes.
Yeah, that was coming out of the hairpin. But yeah, Baltas was between Preston and Pryor coming into this particular race meeting. So he's got an opportunity to sort of spring up a little bit and get a bit closer to Thomas King, who's rounding out the top 6 at the minute. King's having a better run this time. I mean, he's not that far adrift of Matt Caruana, less than a second adrift of the number 18. But yeah, Baltas is now being reeled in. Look how quickly Sandy Mitchell is closing in, and he's got a minute and a half to try and get past. Look, the slipstream's working, but he's having to back out of it for the moment. He's thinking, I can't get him this time, but I've got a good run going into turn 1. They both make a really good exit. Down the straight they go, keeping towards the right-hand side as much as possible.
Here he
goes towards the outside. Yep, Mitchell, no. Mitchell is just waiting. He's like Shere Khan in the Reeds in the Jungle Book. And he's waiting to see if Baltas makes a mistake, but Baltas does not make a mistake through to turn 2.
This is how you win races. We've got a minute to go. This is what you do. You pressurise the guy in front and you make him make the mistake. And Sandy Mitchell's going to spend the next 60 seconds pushing and pressuring this guy. This is the last lap, whatever happens. So it's all down to Baltas to hang on in front of Sandy Mitchell. Mitchell's going to push it absolutely to the limit. But Baltas is not going to crack if he's got anything to say about it. He's certainly done a better job of the last lap of the race race at Montreal than Sebastian Vettel did back in 11. So this is a great run for Bottas. He just needs to keep it on it. Sandy Mitchell, clearly the fastest driver over the lap, but Bottas is putting his car in exactly the right position in exactly the right time. Mitchell's got the benefit of the slipstream, so he's going to have to work for it. We're going to get a grandstand finish here, down into the hairpin. Mitchell positions the car beautifully to take advantage of a good exit, and he has got one. Slightest of whiskers of twitches from Bottas as they go up through the gears, down the straight. Mitchell's only got one opportunity to get him now, and that's going to be into the chicane, and he's going to go for it, but he'll also want the points. So will he give Bottas the victory? Mitchell's going to try. They're going to go side by side. It's not done yet for Caruana in third. Mitchell trying to outdrag him. Mitchell overshoots. Bottas overshoots and over the curb, but I think that's going to be okay. Bottas is going to get the victory from Sandy Mitchell. Yves Bottas wins race 2 from Sandy Mitchell. Brilliant racing, right to the flag. Matt Caruana's going to be third, but Bottas has done the business, and he becomes the 5th different winner in 6 races.
Well, these results are all provisional, pending any decisions post-weekend, but wow, Yves Bottas and Scott Mitchell, sorry, not Scott Mitchell, Sandy Mitchell, having to, as looks like there's a few donuts happening. There's Piers Pryor. I think he's about to let some rubber fly. Let's see, that's Matt Caruana. Who's that? But
he's made the podium.
They're all trying to,
it's uphill.
It's uphill, and they're trying to avoid each other. Oh, that was close. Oh, whoops. Matt Caruana gets a little nudge on the left rear. But Yves Bottas becomes the 5th different winner in the Custom Racewear Formula 3 iRacing Championship here at Montreal in Canada. But yeah, I think it's been really good. So Bottas wins from Mitchell and Caruana rounding out the top 3. Thomas King, good effort from him to finish 4th, having started 9th, and Summer losing a bit of bodywork, suspension, and also some tyres as well. Piers Pryor in 5th place in the number 25, ahead of Jamie Dory. That was a great battle between him. Oh, more people are losing bodywork. So Dory in 6th ahead of Sam Reed, Teddy Wilson, George Polozzi, Philip Russell running out the top 10 with Michael Preston, Maximus Meyer, Austin Foster, Matthew Gauthier Thornton, Stephen Healy, Ben White and Elliot Mason being the last of the 17 classified finishers in this race, ahead of Harry Smithson, Colin Sanzeri, Bradley Gelman, Sammy Venables, Connor Mills and Jamie Jenkins. But Jake, your final thoughts after what has been a fantastic couple of races with the 15-minute sprint race and the 20-minute feature race with a reverse grid top 10. What are your thoughts after what's been a fantastic penultimate round?
Is it too much to hope there's no penalty at the end of that race? I think that was an absolutely brilliant battle between the two of them to the line. They both gave as good as they got. Yes, they both went off the circuit over the chicane. For me, there was no contact, so for me that's a racing incident. They're battling away for position. There was no dirty driving between either of them. I think that's just circumstantial. They were both trying to make the corner. Yes, neither of them made it, but there was no advantage lost or gained as far as I'm concerned. That was truly brilliant racing all the way to the death, and it's the kind of racing that you expect of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It's a beautiful venue, it's a wonderful place to go racing, and it sets us up with a chance for Sandy Mitchell to take the title next time. But we've had some brilliant and phenomenal racing, as we have had for the first 2 weekends as well. It's been a brilliant day at the office, and every single one of the drivers out there has delivered again. I can't wait for the finale.
Yes, so in a week's time, join myself, Alex Goldschmidt and Jake Sanson as we head to the Netherlands for the final round. Round 4 of the Custom Racewear Formula 3 iRacing Championship, sponsored by Simutec Technologies and brought to you in association with Danforth Racing UK and GoBobby.uk. I think at the end of it all, Sandy Mitchell, if he wins the penultimate race of the season, he picks up the inaugural title. Join myself and Jake in just a week's time as we say, hi and avant to the Netherlands. Good evening and thank you for watching.